Hi, this is Canadian folk musician Jesse Ferguson, and today I'm bringing you a video on how to tune your guitar. Now there's some overlap in this video with my other videos on guitar playing, notably how to play guitar, an overview on how to do everything, so you can check out that video if you'd like, and also on how to change the strings on your guitar, which is another video. I'll put the links here, you can check those out if you're interested. So this video is mainly targeted at beginners. Why should you tune your guitar? Well, there are a few good reasons. First of all, it obviously sounds better, not just to you, but also to anyone who happens to be listening. If you want to play with other musicians, there has to be some kind of default standard tuning that we're all playing in. Not to say that alternate tunings aren't compatible in some cases, but that's somewhat technical. What you need to do also is to train your ear. You want to be able to recognize when something is on pitch or when it's not, even for instance for singing, and one way to do that is to always ensure that your instrument is on pitch whenever you play it. So it's definitely worth picking up your guitar and tuning it every time you play it. That's what I do. And sometimes I tune in between. If I'm playing, say, for an hour or two, I'll tune every half hour or something like that. Because wooden instruments, including electric guitars, all of this applies to electric guitars as well, the humidity and temperature affects the wood. So if you had a solid metal or a solid plastic guitar, presumably it wouldn't go in and out of tune all the time, as much anyway. But wooden guitars are sort of living things. Moisture, temperature, all kinds of things can affect it. How you're playing it, you can introduce problems of tuning and so on. So it's really worth tuning every time you pick it up. That's my philosophy. And once you train your ear to recognize it, you can go longer stretches in between formal tunings with the tuner because you'll be able to recognize when a string is out. So, what I'm going to explain today is basic standard tuning, which is E, A, D, G, B, and E. That's what most people call standard tuning. It's the most common type of tuning. There are others available to experiment with, but this video is just going to cover the basic one. And a lot of what I talk about here is going to also apply for those other tunings, non-standard tunings like DADGAD or something like that. So, what are the kinds of tuners? Well, there are analog tuners, digital tuners, and software tuners, basically. So analog tuners, it's like a little box, and most of them will have some kind of an actual analog dial. So there's actually a little needle inside the box that moves up and tells you whether you're on pitch for that note. My mother has one of them. They seem to last forever and very reliable. Maybe a little bit more expensive. Probably not as durable. The most common today, though, are digital tuners. This one is a Boss brand TU-80. This one I highly recommend. It also has a metronome built in. This one is made by Quarter Note, and it's a little clamp-on jobby. Very convenient, fits in the guitar case quite handily, and it clips on so you can operate it hands-free, which is a huge advantage compared to this style. Now the other one that you might encounter are ones built into your guitar. This one doesn't happen to have it, my other guitar does. I don't tend to like it. The one on my other guitar, it tends to be a bit finicky to get just right. And the third kind, as we mentioned, are software tuners. So for instance, on websites, lots of different websites have guitar tuners you can use for free. One of the good ones is on Fender. Fender Guitars has a tuner you can use for free there. You can also download apps for your iPhone or things like that. Some of them for free, some of them you have to pay for. All of them will work. Not all of them are as user-friendly. Like I said, some of the one that's built into my guitar is a digital tuner, and I find it's very touchy. You're tuning and tuning, trying to get it just right, and the needle seems to be skipping all over the place. This one is the best one I've used ever, the Boss TU-80, for being easy to use in that regard. It actually has the needle, whenever it's on pitch, it will actually make a, oh, that's a little flat now. It beeps. I don't know if you heard that. It beeps when you're on pitch, which is a nice advantage. This little quarter note one is alright. It's a tad jumpier in terms of the needle jumping over and back and forth. but they'll all do the job. Now what you want is your tuner to be set up in 440 hertz, which is called concert pitch or standard pitch. What does that mean? Well, you don't really need to know. It has to do with how many vibrations in a second or something like that for a string, or for any other instrument for that matter. But if you have a new tuner, don't let your kid or whoever play around with all the buttons and do things that you don't know how to undo, because you can change the pitch, what it will tune your guitar up to. So what you want is 440 hertz, which is the standard on all Western, for Western countries, their tuners, I believe. But you can change it to whatever you want to. So it's not, your guitar won't sound right if it's tuned to some other frequency than somebody else's guitar. So those are my tuners. This one's the most convenient to use. This one is the easiest to actually get the tuning proper. So it's a compromise. How much do they cost? Well, this one I believe is about $30. This one about $25. This one here. The one that was built in my guitar, I guess, cost nothing except for it's factored into the price of the guitar, I imagine. So how do you tune your guitar? Well, let's talk about that. First step is look at your strings. Ask yourself if they're really old and you haven't used them in years, or they look like they've got corrosion on them or a lot of gunk and grime. Break the bank, spend $5 or $10, and go get a brand new set of strings at the music store. I have a video, as I said, on how to change guitar strings, so you can follow along with that. You really are not going to get good sound out of your guitar with really ancient strings that are, worn down or they don't resonate well anymore. So it's $5 or $10 for a new set of strings. You might as well buy one. So the actual tuning, you can either start at the low E or the high E. Some people insist that you have to start at the high E or the low E and then move your way through. In my experience, it makes no difference. If the guitar is really out of tune, usually it's going to take 2 runs through of tuning to get it up to proper tuning. So why don't I'll screw it all up on purpose to show you. It doesn't sound too hot. So let's turn on the tuner. And I'm going to start with the low E just because that's my habit. So it's sharp now. And I always bring up to pitch. As I said, this one doesn't beep, but I like how it's hands-free. So there's the A, it's really flat. Usually on the first run through, don't try to get it exactly perfect if your guitar is really out. Close enough is good enough. Give it a second in between strings as well. It needs a second to come back down. So that one's sharp. I always lower it first and then bring it up. Now because that was really out of tune, I'm going to go through one more time from the top. E, and now I try to get it perfect. You can hear the other tuner beeping. And now it should be tuned. Sounds good to me. So, if you really want to be absolutely thorough, then give it a few hard bangs on a few chords. And then check it again. I'm going to leave it at that for now. But what you don't want to do is ever tune, if it's sharp, you don't want to loosen your machine head and bring it down to pitch. You always want to bring the string tight up to pitch, because what will happen is there will be slack in the string here or there if you're bringing it down to pitch, and that slack can work itself out while you're playing, and then all of a sudden your note is flat, your string is flat. So you always want to, if it's sharp on the tuner, is lower it well below pitch and then bring it back up very, very gradually up to pitch.